What's going on, guys? Transkay here. Today, this video is another episode of Battlefield News. This is a series where I talk and explain to you guys about the latest news regarding Battlefield. So today's topics will include the Ballistic Shield being introduced to the Dragon's Teeth DLC, a tiny patch on the server side which helped balance some weapons, and a very quick look at the interview done by Alex Mendez during the Battlefield 4 Naval Strike livestream. So firstly, let's talk about how DICE is actually introducing the Ballistic Shield, aka the Riot Shield, into the Dragon's Teeth DLC. And I'll also do a bit of speculation on the DLC itself too. Now, this expansion pack is expected to be released in summer 2014. However, there aren't much details on it right now, apart from the fact that the gameplay will be based on urban warfare in war-torn cities locked down by the Chinese army. With the Ballistic Shield, it is reported that it will stop bullets from hitting you, obviously. So Ryan Duffin, a senior animator at DICE, explained the shield at GDC 2014 on March the 17th at the Animation Bootcamp talk. He said that the team were trying to bring in a Ballistic Shield ability into the game, which can give you a handgun to defend yourself. But this approach was apparently not successful due to the memory constraints in the last generation consoles like the PS3 and the Xbox 360. So the team made the Ballistic Shield movable with two hands instead of one. But this move made players unable to use the handgun at the same time because they will be using it for moving the shield, obviously. Personally, I think the shield is just unneeded. To me, this Riot Shield or Ballistic Shield kinda sounds very gimmicky to me. It has been in many past first-person shooters before, like Call of Duty of course, and obviously a lot of people are hating on this because they feel that Battlefield is moving even closer and closer to Call of Duty, which some Battlefield fans really do not like and pride themselves as being the better ones. Now, I don't hate the Ballistic Shield, but I'm not supporting it either. The problem with me about the shield is I just don't see how it's gonna really enhance the gameplay, and I'm just afraid that this shield will just be like the AC-130 from Battlefield 3, where everyone was all excited before it came out, but then when it actually did, it was just annoying. Unless this shield is really implemented to the game so it's not unbalanced, or else I just really don't see how the community will accept this gadget. So I hope this shield won't go down the same path as the AC-130 did, because in my opinion I kind of felt like the AC-130 in Battlefield 3 was just a waste of resources for DICE. I just think that they could have made something much better if they didn't go off the AC-130 idea, but only time will tell on how this shield will do and how the community will react. Now moving on, I want to talk about the DLC itself. Again, we know this DLC will revolve around urban warfare and take place in war-torn cities locked down by the Chinese army. That just doesn't tell us very much, so I do like to do some speculation. As some of you may or may not know, the Battlefield 4 DLCs kind of follow a storyline except for Second Assault. In China Rising, these two factions fought on mainland China. Then in Naval Strike, China fights back, taking the battle to the oceans. So would there be a possibility where US had to fall back even more and now they're fighting on US soil? So does it mean that this DLC will take place in war-torn West Coast American cities like Los Angeles? I just believe there is a chance of that happening, since DICE knows a lot of players like having games to take place in America, so it feels more like home for some people at least. But just remember, this is my own speculation, not confirmed facts, so I'm probably wrong, and as more news comes out for any future DLCs, I will be sure to bring you guys the latest details. Enough about the Dragon's Teeth DLC, let's talk about the server patch released on the 18th. I am happy to say that DICE has gone and given us a small server side update, which did some small tweaks here and there, but together these changes could really make the game much better, I would think. So first things first, I'm extremely excited about what DICE has done with their stingers and the IGLAs. They have finally seen a nerf in their damage, and no longer will they do 45 damage per shot against enemy aircrafts. It has been dropped down to 35 damage per shot, and while that's still going to only require 3 stinger missiles to take out a vehicle, at least this way it's going to give you some breathing room, because before the patch, 2 missiles will bring the aircraft down to 10% health, meaning you are disabled, losing health, and basically anything that fires in your general direction will kill you. So hopefully with a small update, this will finally give the helicopters the breathing room that they need to get away from that engagement to activate their countermeasures and survive longer in the air. Speaking of countermeasures, the IR flares and the ECM jammers resupply time has been slightly buffed for all aircrafts. Before this patch, it took 30 seconds for the ECM jammer to cool down, while in an attack helicopter, that will probably feel like an eternity, as some of you may know. And the 25-second cooldown time for the IR flares weren't much better either. So those waiting times will basically turn your helicopters into a sitting duck, and hopefully this change would finally make the helicopters a bit more versatile in the game, but I don't think it's going to make them the most powerful vehicle on the battlefield either. Then on top of that, there's another small tweak they have done. They have toned down the helicopters flipping over due to the Stinger missiles. This definitely is something that is needed to be fixed, because I cannot tell you how many times I have been in a helicopter flying pretty low to the ground trying to avoid Stinger missiles, and then one sudden Stinger missiles come out of nowhere and then hits me, causing me to lose complete control and flip over. I mean, this wasn't even beneficial to the guy on the ground firing those missiles, because the helicopter just crashes and not even give him the kill. So I'm just very glad they finally make this tweak to the game. And the final other tweak done to the attack helicopter was actually a nerf. They have reduced the direct damage of the attack helicopter's Zuni rockets, as they were slightly too powerful. Personally, from the beginning, I have always stuck with the Zuni rockets for my attack helis. I have never liked the other two choices and thought the Zuni rockets were fine before the buff, but since they buffed it, it became overpowered. You are just able to destroy helicopters and tanks like if they were toys. So now, after this patch, they have reduced the direct damage of them down to 50% from the buff in the last patch. This may sound like a huge nerf, but believe me, they are very effective still. Now onto a quick little change done to the active protection for the ground vehicles. Now before the patch, active protection took 30 seconds to regenerate, but now after the patch, it takes 35 seconds, so just a 5-second nerf. Do I think this is needed? I actually do, because you all know basically 90% of the tank drivers uses active protection as their countermeasures, because it helps you block out incoming rockets or shells. This just made the other three options basically useless. So maybe after this patch, more and more tank drivers will slowly switch to the IR smoke or some other countermeasure. But personally, I still like my active protection because I play very safely with my tanks, and I really don't mind the extra 5-second wait. Lastly, let's talk about some weapon/gadget tweaks. So first on the list is the Javelin nerf. The main nerf to the Javelin is its damage. It has been reduced from 34 damage per rocket down to 30. This nerf was, in my opinion, much needed. Before the patch, the 34 damage means you could take out any vehicle with only 3 rockets, and that's just crazy amount of firepower for one single engineer. And with the upcoming Naval Strike DLC, if the Javelin was unchanged, you'll probably see boats getting massacred out there in the open water where there isn't much cover to try to break that lock on. Also, in this patch, DICE took away the ability for players to do the straw trick, where the player fires one Javelin missile, quickly reloads and then fires the second missile, then locking back onto the same target, having both missiles hitting at almost the same time. This was extremely overpowered because 2 combined rockets will do 68% damage to a vehicle in a very short amount of time. It was just flat out broken, and it was just way too powerful. And personally, I'm very glad that they made these adjustments to the Javelin, and hopefully it puts this launcher more in line with all the other rocket launchers in this game. They have also buffed the CBJMS, aka the nail gun. DICE have increased the damage of the gun to all ranges to better balance the rate of fire. Now, I don't know how this change will change the CBJMS, because there's just so many other options in the PDW category which is better than this gun. The last tweak that they have done to the weapons is the AWS. The side-to-side recoil of this gun has been increased to better balance this LMG with the other 800 rounds per minute firing LMGs. I'm glad they made this change, but this LMG is still probably the better choice between the MG4 and the M249, so maybe in the future further changes might be needed. Lastly, during the Battlefield 4 Naval Strike DLC livestream that took place on March the 19th, Th3 talked about some secrets that Battlefield still holds, as well as a few of the new balance tweaks arriving with the Naval Strike expansion pack on March the 25th for premium members. They want to bring vehicular warfare to the forefront with Naval Strike. DICE hopes to tweak a few gameplay elements in order to create a better balance between them. He said, and I quote, "We have been looking at helicopters, and of course helicopters have been a little bit on the weaker side," said Th3. "So in this release we are buffing them a bit, making them a bit easier to use for helicopter pilots to stay alive basically." Now, we don't know what they're tweaking, but in my opinion, we should at least bring back gunner flares and increase the mobility of the attack helicopters. Anyways, that about wraps up this episode of Battlefield News. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you have taken away something from it. Again, if you would like to see the patch notes for yourself, I will have a link down below in the description. There will be lots of content coming out very soon, and I will try my best to cover it all. So make sure you stay tuned to my channel to see it. Thanks for watching. Peace out, guys.